What's happening, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Buffalo Bills Week 17 post-game reaction show. What a game it was as the Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins by a score of 56-26, eliminating the Miami Dolphins from playoff contention. The Buffalo Bills reigned supreme once again. This was a obliteration of the Miami Dolphins. This was a one-sided pounding with the Buffalo Bills swinging the hammer as they obliterated Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. As I said, 56-26, resting the starters or sitting the starters. What will it be? We didn't know, and it didn't even matter whether the Bills sat their starters or, didn't sit their starters. Didn't matter whatsoever in this game. The Buffalo Bills were able to obliterate the Miami Dolphins defense. And to date, prior to this game, the one thing we could honestly say is that the Miami defense was pretty solid year-round, season-round, all year long for the Miami Dolphins. That's pretty much what led them to this 10-5 record. More on that a little bit later. But the Dolphins didn't show up in this game. There wasn't a moment in this game where I felt any anxiety, any fear of what the Dolphins brought to the table. And the stat sheet was eye-popping for this Buffalo Bills offense. And I just kept saying to myself, one thing throughout this entire game. What was the one thing that I kept saying to myself throughout this entire game? How fun is this? How fun is this to watch this offense week in, week out, led by Josh Allen? John Brown back in the swing of things. He picked up right where he left off. Stephon Diggs was making things happen in that first half as the Bills benched their starters essentially after that first half. There was a moment where we all kind of held our breath and said, oh shit, oh snap, Stephon Diggs got hurt. We thought, oh wow, that's not good. We need Diggs out there. He's the best weapon that this team has had in quite a long time offensively at the wide receiver position especially. So, that moment in the game where Stephon Diggs was somewhat crunched in between two defenders, an extremely dirty play, by the way, from the Miami Dolphins. Can't say I'm shocked in that regard. But a play nonetheless that thankfully Diggs was okay. Thankfully he was all right. And, he finished that first half as did the rest of the starters. The stats for this game are hilarious. And I will say, in terms of how fun this was and why it was fun for the simple fact that, a 28-point second quarter and a 21-point fourth quarter by the Buffalo Bills made me say to myself, how fun is this? Player for player, it didn't matter who was out there. Josh Allen, 18 of 25 for 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Matt Barkley in his own right, 6 of 13, 164 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Running the ball today, Antonio Williams, the Tar Heel, the UNC Tar Heel Antonio Williams, who was elevated from the practice squad to the regular roster. He was fantastic today. 2 rushing touchdowns, 12 carries, 63 yards, and average yards per carry of 5 yards per carry, 5.3 yards per carry, but he had an 18-yard run. And receiving, it was a little bit of everything. But the player that is the takeover player of the game, there is no doubt about it. You guys know who the takeover player of the game is. Drum roll for the takeover player of the game. We don't even have to. And this is the biggest takeaway of the game as well. McKenzie had a day. Isaiah McKenzie had a day. And it's easy to say he had a day, but it was a day that was much needed from Isaiah McKenzie due to the fact that the Buffalo Bills didn't have Cole Beasley in this one. And you're wondering who is going to step up? Who is that player that is going to step up? Who is that guy that will fill that role? Isaiah McKenzie steps into that role, plays within that role very well, and has the best game, arguably, of his career. 2 receiving touchdowns and 1 punt return that had me jumping up and down out of my seat. And just honestly, there are moments in this game where I found myself laughing, literally laughing almost like I was watching a comedy show at how easy it looked for the Buffalo Bills to dispatch this Miami Dolphins team. And I will say the Dolphins are a team heading into this one that has had a good season. So I can't say that the Miami Dolphins are full of scrubs and that they're a terrible team. I couldn't say that throughout the majority of the season, at least. I can say that now that we saw the effort that the Miami Dolphins displayed. Granted, I'm not taking anything away from our Buffalo Bills, from our beloved Buffalo Bills. This was a fantastic, dominant, one-sided performance by the Buffalo Bills. And this was a performance that, takeover player of the game ends up being their punt returner, largely throughout this season, a reserve, bottom of the depth chart wide receiver that steps up due to the fact that Cole Beasley wasn't in this one, due to the fact that, he had the opportunity to step up because of the fact that the starters were benched as of the second half. Isaiah McKenzie had a hell of a day today. This was the best game in his NFL career, bar none. And for a guy that has been on the bubble, so to speak, going from the Denver Broncos to the Buffalo Bills, what a welcomed game that was for him. I'm sure he is ecstatic over the results that he provided in today's game, a big game for the Buffalo Bills, because if the Buffalo Bills lost this game, things could have changed in the pecking order. That was what was on the line, and that was what fans were kind of confused over, whether they should or shouldn't start their starters. The fact that it didn't matter is probably one of the biggest moral victories that the Buffalo Bills could have all season long. And, we talk about, is Josh Allen an MVP candidate? You better believe that Josh Allen is an MVP candidate, and he deserves to be, on the short list of, Rodgers and Mahomes. To me, it is a no-brainer to put Josh Allen in that illustrious company. Look at the records that this Bills team has been able to break or establish. There is no player in NFL history to put up the numbers in a single season that Josh Allen has, between the passing yards, the passing touchdowns, the rushing touchdowns, the rushing yards. No player in NFL history has put up the exact numbers that Josh Allen has at the quarterback position for a single season. That, to me, in and of itself, puts him in that conversation as an NFL MVP. That's a lot of, what I really truly feel. I wouldn't even say that coming from a Bills fan perspective. I would say that from a perspective of, this guy, without him, you take him off the Buffalo Bills, this team is nowhere near what it has been the last, 8-9 weeks. You take Pat Mahomes off the Chiefs, that backup could probably do pretty well with the weapons that they have. I don't ever want to see a moment where Matt Barkley is starting in a game. Today was one thing. In this situation that the Bills are in, locking in the second seed, knowing the situation that they're in, I'm not really, upset over the fact that Matt Barkley had to play in this one. It was the situation that we were able to create for ourselves due to the fact that we put up the season that we have. And, all that being said, Josh Allen still found a way to make an impact in this game. And he was the best player on the field in that first half. Granted, he's got the weapons. The offense has full mojo, and they're firing on all cylinders. But there is no doubt about it to me that, I would vote for Josh Allen as the MVP this year. I've seen that transformation from year 1, year 2, year 3. You guys have as well. And seeing it is one thing. Knowing what it has led to is another. And I want to read off some of the records that the Bills have been able to break. I have a laundry list of records that the Bills have been able to break as a franchise this season. The record-breaking Bills of 2020, the Buffalo Bills broke a team record with 501 points scored, averaging 31.3 points per game. They tied the franchise record for regular season wins with 13. Josh Allen breaks the most passing records. He breaks most of them. He shattered Jim Kelly's touchdown record, passed Drew Bledsoe today for yards in a single season passing. Stephon Diggs breaks the receptions record that was held by Eric Moulds, breaks the receiving yards record, again, that was held by Eric Moulds. And Tyler Bass, a rookie kicker, breaks the record for most points scored. Now, I haven't put up a graphic for this yet. I have a very, shall I say, cute graphic that will illustrate Tyler Bass breaking this record. It's an amazing achievement for a rookie kicker to break a franchise record that was held by the greatest kicker that this franchise has ever seen in Steve Christie. A massive, massive deal. I think that to me is actually the most impressive record, even more impressive than Allen and Diggs. Dare I say it, a rookie kicker. The kicker is arguably, for a rookie, that's a pressure cooker position on an average day. Even if you're Adam Vinatieri, in his prime, that's a pressure cooker. For a rookie to come in and break the points record and heading into the playoffs as a healthy number 2 seed, I mean, this is fantastic. And I think that this Bills team, the biggest thing that I can say is that not only did this Bills team go 13-3, not only were they the first team to win the AFC East in Bills history in 25 years, but they had their own individual achievements as well. And it's a credit to Sean McDermott. It's a credit to Brandon Beane. And yes, of course, it's a credit to Brian Daboll. My biggest question outside of whether they'll win a playoff game, that's the next step for this franchise. They have to win against the Indianapolis Colts next week, and I'm going to dive into that game a little bit at the end of the show. I do want to remind you guys that are watching on the live side of things to fire away some comments. I love interacting with you guys, especially after a big win like this, so keep those comments coming. I will get to them, as I always do, at the end of the show. So where was I? So in terms of the next step, that is the next step. Beating the Indianapolis Colts, winning a playoff game is without a doubt the next step for this team. Can they do it? They haven't done it yet. That's the next big step. I'm not saying that they can't do it, but that's something that they have to do in order to prove their worth, in order to show that, yes, they are a legitimate force in the AFC for many years to come. If they go all this way, break all these franchise records, Allen, Diggs, Bass, the defense has shored itself up these last 5 or 6 weeks. If they do all of that just to go one and done in the playoffs, it would be devastating. It would be devastating. I'm hoping that doesn't happen for our fan base and for our city. And I don't think it will. I'm pretty confident. Watching this team these last few weeks, they've made things look so damn easy, almost at a laughable level. They look so good that it's almost like they have toyed with their opponents. And I don't want to say that they ran things up today. I don't. Their backups were out there. The situation for Miami was to stop their backups. If you can't stop our backups, then, so be it. I had a lot of people on Twitter and Facebook saying, oh, are they running up the score? Are they being, a little bit sore winners? This has been a team that has found every way to lose over the last, 20-some years. Now they are contenders. They are not pretenders anymore. They are contenders, and they deserve their day in the sun. And do I feel that the Bills have had their day in the sun by the national media? Not necessarily. And a lot of people will disagree with me on that. They'll say, well, they are getting talked about in the national media. People are saying how great Josh Allen has been, how great he has become. And they have been giving credit, I should say, to Diggs and some of the other players. But there still seems to be until they win a playoff game, right? There still seems to be this thought that until they win a playoff game, they're not considered as good as a 2 seed normally would be. And they're definitely not talked about like they are the 2 seed. And they should be. And that is the mistake of the national media. That is the mistake of every city, playoff city, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Tennessee. That is their mistake. Indy, that is their mistake. I don't think Indy is going to take us lightly. They got a great head coach. More on him a little bit later. But, this was my takeaway from the game. And I want to say, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm Ryan Thomas. sports podcast host. Thank you so much for tuning in all season long. This has been a great season, a historic season, and I've seen historic growth within the Thomas Take Sports Podcast because of Bills Mafia. You guys are the best fan base in the world. But my biggest takeaway from this Bills beatdown of the Miami Dolphins, the broadcast between, I think it was Kevin Harlan and Trent Green, if my memory serves me right, they were saying something at one point in the game that, the Bills are a team on the rise, the Dolphins are a team on the rise, and we have every reason to be happy as Bills fans. The Dolphins, even though they came up on the losing end of this game, they have every reason to be happy as well. But I thought to myself, the Bills and Dolphins, in terms of where they are at in their franchise, state of their franchise, I should say, the state of the Bills, the state of the Dolphins are nowhere near the Buffalo Bills in terms of their rebuild for a lot of reasons, but mainly that reason is because the Dolphins don't have a quarterback. And, I was commentating on it the entire game, whether it was on Twitter or on Facebook. Tua is not a good quarterback. There was nothing about Tua coming out of Bama that wowed me. There was nothing that made me say to myself, man, one of those franchises is going to get, one of the great young rookie quarterbacks if they take him. There was nothing that would have ever made me think, man, I hope that such and such team that really needs Tua tanks and gets him, because that'll help them a lot. Those things never came out of my mouth in the 2020 NFL draft class. That was nothing that I thought. I thought Joe Burrow was the consensus number one quarterback. I thought Tua, while accomplished at Bama, played at Bama, how would his skills translate to the National Football League? Would they translate to the National Football League? Could they? I had plenty of doubts. You go back on the Thomas Take and some of the other shows that I've done, and I thought that Miami would be best served sitting a player like that, sitting a player that had durability issues in college, sitting a player that definitely didn't play within the speed of the NFL game at the collegiate level, regardless as to whether he played at Bama or not, playing with CeeDee Lamb, playing with Henry Ruggs, to playing for the Miami Dolphins with Gesicki, Devontae. Very different. I would say skill position-wise, Bama has been better than some of these NFL teams the last few years. That's why they're always in the national championship. That's why they got a lot of guys going in the first round and making an impact depending on where they go. It's all situational, of course, but Tua was not a quarterback in college that really made me think, wow, he'll translate well to the National Football League. I thought he's a solid college quarterback. I'm sure he'll go high in the draft, but will he pan out the same way that he did in college and the pro level? Probably not. And maybe that's a little bit premature of me to say that in Tua's rookie season. But I know one thing. When I watched Josh Allen, his rookie year, I knew that the more this guy played, the better he was going to get. I knew that Josh Allen had a high ceiling coming out of Wyoming. I don't know if Tua even has a ceiling. I think Tua might have reached his ceiling already in college. Can he surpass that in the pros, or will that regress in the pro level? It has actually regressed. So my biggest takeaway from this game, does any AFC East team scare me? And the answer is no. The Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets, I am not afraid of any one of these teams in the future. Not in the slightest. Another facet of this Buffalo Bills team in 2020 that has shattered the history books is that they went undefeated against the AFC East. Perfect record, 6-0, undefeated. Sweeping the Jets, sweeping the Patriots, sweeping the Dolphins. You love to see it. You got three fan bases that are in such disarray, three fan bases that can't get a grip on reality. One fan base, in the Patriots fan base, believes that, oh, well, if we just had a quarterback, we'd be a little bit better. You got no receivers, no running backs to speak of, a mediocre defense, to say the least, and a coach that I think realizes that the sun is coming down. The day in the sun has almost ended. And, there's only so many hours in the day where the sun's out. The sun's going to go down in New England, if it hasn't already, very, very soon. I think they could be even potentially worse next year than they were this year, depending on the moves they make or don't make. Let's going to be a very interesting situation there. Then you have the Jets, one of the worst franchises that, one of the worst seasons, I should say, that a team has put forward in 25, 30 years. A coach that was pointed and laughed at when he was hired because it was a shock that he was hired then, and it's a shock that he is still there. Tomorrow, the day that they refer to as Black Monday in the NFL, I don't think Gase will be there tomorrow. I would hope not for those New Jersey Jets fans. We'll see. We'll see, though. And then you got the Miami Dolphins who, Brian Flores is a coach that I really like. Their defense has been shored up. They've made moves on their defense. I talked about that in the pregame show. But, Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, the defense has been shored up. The defense is pretty damn good. But they don't have a quarterback. The quarterback that has led them to a solid, consistent offense was out today. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitz only has so long. He's been playing a long time. I don't know how much longer Fitz is actually going to play beyond this season. If he does, God bless him. I love the guy. Respect him greatly. I'm rooting for him no matter what he does. Even if he's in Miami, I will still cheer on Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's got my word on that. But for whatever reason, this franchise meaning the Dolphins, thought that Tua was good enough to play. Big mistake. Tua should be holding a clipboard on the sideline, only holding a clipboard on the sideline. Outside of that, he shouldn't be playing. This guy is not capable of leading an NFL offense right now. Do I have doubts as to whether or not he ever will be? Yes, I do. He's very average. I would say very fair. There's nothing about him that wows me. I honestly thought, you guys can, check it out. Go back to April, go back to March. I honestly feared that the Dolphins would take Justin Herbert. And I'm so thankful they didn't. And that is one decision that could plague a franchise, a decision that they didn't make or a decision that they made to pass on Herbert for Tua, or rather than go up and get Herbert. Was Herbert the third pick and Tua the fifth pick? I felt like Herbert was taken after Tua. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe my mind is playing tricks on me. Let me look that up while we're on the show here. And while I'm looking that up, I'll answer some of your questions. So let's see here. Michael Geray says, insane game, man, and glad to play the Colts in round one over anyone else. And that's a weird thing, too. Like, we're trying to find out what the playoff scenarios are. And a lot of people are saying, I hope that they play the Colts. I just hope that they stay healthy and play like the Bills, no matter who they're playing. I get where people are coming from when they talk about that. That makes sense. But, I think we fall in love with these scenarios. No, I was right. So Tua was picked fifth, and the Chargers took Justin Herbert sixth. I know this is a Bills post-game show. But in talking about the AFC East and whether I have any realistic fears, if the Dolphins took Herbert, a much better NFL quarterback than Tua, just skill set wise, you don't even have to throw in the fact that Herbert just broke rookie passing records. You don't even have to throw that out there. Prior to all that, looking at these players heading into the draft, I thought that Herbert was the way better prospect. I'm thankful that Miami botched that situation. Buffalo obliterated Miami's defense. And this was a defense that was thought to be one of the better defenses in the AFC, along with Pittsburgh. Buffalo obliterated Pittsburgh. They obliterated Miami. They made Miami look like a JV high school team today. And this is the one offense outside of Kansas City that I don't think any AFC playoff team wants to play right now. The Bills are the hottest team in the National Football League. The Buffalo Bills are the hottest team in the National Football League, not just on offense, but on defense as well. The defense shut it down. The offense made it rain out there. Raindrops from Josh Allen. Raindrops from Matt Barkley. Beautiful. The best play of the game to me, if I were to do like play of the game, throwing that in there, the best play of the game, Matt Barkley drops back, heaves it down the center of the field. It is about 2 yards ahead of rookie wide receiver Gabe Davis, and Gabe Davis hauls it in and runs it in for 6. That was, I think, one of the best plays of this Buffalo Bills season. It was one of the best catches of this Buffalo Bills season. That was a wow moment. Another wow moment of today's game. Josh Allen drops back, heaves it down the right sideline to Isaiah McKenzie. The cannon and the accuracy. Troy Aikman, 3-time Super Bowl champion, said, you can't change accuracy. You can't fix accuracy. And I quote, I think the Bills might have reached for Josh Allen in this draft. He has some accuracy issues. Troy, Josh Allen finished with a 58% completion percentage in college at Wyoming. Are those numbers great? No, they're not. But was Josh Allen thrown to Stephon Diggs, John Brown, and Cole Beasley in college? No. So now that Josh Allen has a great supporting cast around him, and he's tweaked his mechanics, as we know, with Jordan Palmer, and Ken Dorsey has done a wonderful job. You want to talk about a guy that hasn't had any credit? Brian Daboll, rightfully so. Rightfully so. I will say it. Rightfully so. My frustrations with Daboll last year were in large part to the fact that the offense was very vanilla. Was the offense vanilla because they didn't have a wide receiver 1? Probably. And did I think this offense could have been better last year? 100%. That's played itself out this year twofold. The offense is better with that wide receiver 1, and they are a better offense, just in general. So, that aside, I think Ken Dorsey has had a phenomenal season as the quarterback's coach for this team. And when I, do the offseason breakdown, hopefully I don't have to do that for a while. But when I break down this team and do the offseason breakdown, I'm going to be talking about Ken Dorsey a lot. So stay tuned for that. That'll be at the end of the season when the Bills are Super Bowl champions. So the 2 seed versus the 7 seed. That is the story of this game. The 2 seed versus the 7 seed. The Buffalo Bills take on the Indianapolis Colts. AFC wildcard round 1. The Bills are here yet again, this time bigger, badder than ever before. The big bad Bills have returned. Jim Kelly, Josh Allen's coming for all your records. Eric Moulds, Stephon Diggs has got all your records, single season at least. Drew Bledsoe lost a record today to Josh Allen, and I think that Allen and Diggs are going to continue to make records and break records for this Buffalo Bills franchise for many years to come. That's what's so exciting about this, regardless as to whether this season ends with this matchup right here or not. This season has been a hell of a season. I don't think this matchup is one that I am too scared of. My dad, on the other hand, believes that this is a scary matchup. His reasons, I'll dive into. But that is the matchup. That is what's up next for this 2020 Buffalo Bills team. And as formidable as the Colts can be, I am not afraid of any opponent, especially in our own division, especially in the AFC East. I know that there isn't another AFC East team in the playoffs, but you get the point. The future of the AFC East rests in the hands of the Buffalo Bills. And that is such a major factor in the present and the future because of the fact that if the Bills continue to win the division year after year after year, they are playing more home playoff games, much like they did in the 80s, much like they did in the 90s, much like New England has done the last 20 years in the Tom Brady era. So that's a big deal. And this was just such a amazing season, and it's only fitting that the season continues in the playoffs as the Bills are the AFC's champions. The Bills hosting their first playoff game in 25 years against the architect of the greatest comeback game in NFL history, Colts head coach Frank Reich. I got a lot of love for Frank Reich, not even just because of what he did in Buffalo Bills history, but what he represents as a human being. He's a very high character guy, very passionate about the game of football, and all of the interviews I've watched of Frank Reich, he seems like such a cerebral coach, and is a coach that was this close to becoming the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Had the Bills gone with Frank Reich, they wouldn't have gone with Rex Ryan. Had the Bills have gone with Frank Reich, they wouldn't have gone with Sean McDermott. There was 2 occasions where Frank Reich was almost the head coach of this team. 3 occasions, actually, prior to hiring Doug Marrone. I remember his name was thrown around. So he's the head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. Josh McDaniels actually offered that job. He turns it down. Frank Reich says, I'll take it. And he's been throwing a monkey wrench. Andrew Luck's retirement. He takes that job thinking that Luck is going to be there. Not so fast. Luck retires a year later, and he brings in Phillip Rivers from the Chargers, who he had worked with while working for the Chargers. I don't know how much Phillip Rivers really has left in the tank. And if the Buffalo Bills are facing any quarterback in the playoffs that I'm not afraid of, if I could pick a quarterback, it would be Rivers, not in the sense that I don't think he's a good quarterback anymore or anything like that. I think he does have talent and skill, but he's not a mobile threat at all. He's a pure pocket passer. So the Bills will be forced to attack this Colts offense in a very 4-3 traditional way, and I think that benefits the Bills. Benefits Sean McDermott in this cover-heavy defensive scheme that the Bills will be tackling against, putting forth, I should say, against the Colts. What a season. Holy Moses, what a season. Unbelievable. So let's get to some of these comments. Robin Bentley says, I will be sleeping with a big smile on my face tonight. Way to go, Buffalo. Been getting some good sleep lately. Haven't lost any sleep over football. That's safe to say. Been losing sleep over the Sabres for probably about 10 years now. Losing sleep over the Bills, not so much these last few years. And the day that changed, the day that changed everything, the day that, regardless as to what you guys can pick, and that's what's fun about this. Bills fans, we could all debate what single day changed the future of this franchise. Was it the day that they hired Sean McDermott? That could be it. Was it the day that they brought in Brandon Beane? That could be it as well. Or was it the day that they drafted number 17, Josh Allen? I go with the latter. I go with April 25th, 2018, the Buffalo Bills moving all up and down the draft board, move up to 7, select a quarterback out of Wyoming by the name of Josh Allen, that only one guy in the Buffalo area, whether it's Buffalo, Amherst, North Tonawanda, Cheektowaga, Lockport, my hometown of Lockport, one guy said that Josh Allen was the future of the Buffalo Bills franchise. One guy. You know who that guy was? You're looking at him. So I've never been more proud about anything in my entire life than calling my shot and saying, yeah, Darnold, yeah, he's got USC capability. He's played against some big schools. But which prospect really just makes me go, holy, wow, this guy's got something special? That was Josh Allen. And yeah, he might not have played in the biggest college games. He might not have had the tough college competition. That stuff does not matter anymore. When you're evaluating a prospect, you can't evaluate him in that way. He can only control who he plays. He can't control who he plays. He can only control how he plays, is what I meant to say there. Josh Allen, 6'5", 240 pounds, a guy that can move and a guy that can throw. Sign me up. What's wrong with that? That was Allen as a rookie. And each year, the one thing that Josh Allen has over Pat Mahomes and over some of these younger quarterbacks in the league is that Josh Allen has actually gotten better by playing. He didn't have the luxury to sit a year behind Alex Smith. He didn't have a year to hold a clipboard. He was thrown into the line of fire. The Bills inexplicably decided that Nate Peterman should start that Week 1 game in 2018 against the Baltimore Ravens. I was at training camp every single day in 2018, and the best player on that offense was Josh Allen as a rookie. You got to remember who was on that team. You had all-pro running backs like LaShawn McCoy. You had some pieces on that offense that could really, make things happen to an extent. Guys like Charles Clay, who had been decent players while they had Tyrod. New quarterback, certain things change. The way the quarterback reads the offense, reads the defense, and attacks the defense, that changes. So, those guys somewhat took a back seat, and you expect that. You expect that to happen. So I'm proud of that, and that's the torch that I will carry from the day Josh Allen was drafted in April of 2018 to the day he retires. And, there's been times where, I've said things that might not be 100%. There'll be times where I'll just be a little bit nitpicky, but I'm not just saying this to toot my own horn. I've done a pretty good job on this show of calling my shot and hitting one out of the park. And that was the one that I literally pointed to center field and just crushed it. So I'm happy about that for sure. So let's go to Bob. He says they put a exclamation point on the season. Statement was made. Bills are here. Watch out. Go Bills. Poncho, watch over us. Oh, man. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, that is something that I've thought about all season long. And as I mentioned, I go to the training camp each and every year, except for this one, for obvious reasons. And I get a message on Twitter, scrolling through Twitter, and I see a gentleman by the name of Ezra Castro follows me on Twitter. And it's just Ezra Castro, but there's a cartoon as the avatar, his profile pic of Pancho Villa. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. He's got Pancho as his profile picture. I didn't know that Ezra Castro was Pancho Villa. It was just a profile. And I thought it was just somebody that respected Pancho, but it was the Ezra Castro. And I got to talk to him at the training camp multiple times. And what a warrior that guy was, is, and always will be. The things that he went through, I have such deep admiration for him and his family, and I'll always remember those conversations. That's somebody you meet that you never forget, just for the fandom reasons and everything he represented, going to games each and every week, going to practices despite the condition that he was in, and fighting through something that is such a vicious disease that has taken so many people. And I really admire, going back and, seeing Bills fans, that comment really took me back. So that's something I really appreciate, Bob. Thank you for making me remember that. So let's do this here. Let's go to Ali. He's got a really cool emoji there on YouTube. I felt the same, but maybe with the right coaching and the time he might develop to be good. Alabama is always heavy with talent. Maybe quarterbacks look better than they are sometimes. I just think, and that's to Tua. It's talking about Tua there. I think that is fact that the college game, these quarterbacks have such padded stats because these defenses can't move as fast. You're literally playing boys against boys, not men among men. It's a big difference. And, now you're looking at Tua, who is a boy entering the league, an extremely green player playing against competition, playing against an opponent that has men on the other side. So Jason says, from the top down, this organization / team has the swagger and vision set on great things this season. You've seen that from the jump. And Pedro says, game plan worked to perfection. Starters got the second strings, a nice cushion for them to continue second half. It was beautiful. And that's a great way to end the show as far as, setting the expectation and surpassing the expectation. Buffalo Bills did that and then some. And, people say, 13-3, we could be 14-2. Yeah, we could be 14-2, but can't we be happy that we're 13-3? If AFC East division champs for the first time in 25 years, I'm pretty happy about that. Colts, you're next. Let's go Bills. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Bills post-game show. For more, you can follow me on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast as well. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take, Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take. Got awesome guests joining me on the show on Wednesday. Greatly looking forward to that and much, much more. So stay tuned and go Bills.